So you probably clicked on this video because you're having an existential crisis. You know, you might be confused, you might be burnt out, or at the very least, you're just bored because you don't have a lot of like creative thoughts come up and you're trying to work out what it is that you're meant to do with your freaking life, okay? So if you're at this stage, then you clicked on the right video, okay? I've been there in personal experience. It's a tough place to be, and that's why I'm super passionate about shooting this video for you on the topic of a vision quest. So you're probably thinking like, is this dude going to start telling me that I need to like stroke some freaking rocks or make some dream catchers or hug some trees? And like, what does this all freaking mean, okay? Because you've probably seen a lot of like other people in this space talk about spirituality, and it just becomes very confusing. They start using a lot of terminology that doesn't really make sense to you, you know, like penetrating the universe with your heart, and you can't really work out like how this actually applies to you and how you can actually have some go-to steps so that you can move forward. So if you're discovering me for the first time, I'm Dice. I help young, analytically and logically minded men that are just like you, help you to discover your purpose so that you can live your life with clarity, meaning and direction. I try to look at like spirituality through the lens of how practical it'd be, how you could actually integrate this into your life. And I typically, myself, I'm very logically and meticulous minded. And people that are drawn to me like this type of the way that I lay things out. So if you like my content, then by all means hit that like button and subscribe. It helps out the channel a great deal. And together we can actually grow this to more men and we can all go and crush it. So in this video, again, I want to talk about this whole idea of a vision quest and how it might actually help you into discovering your purpose and sort of bring a lot more clarity to your life. So I guess the first place that we could start is, what exactly is a vision quest, okay? So a vision quest is essentially a way for you to dive deep into your mind, dive deep into your psyche, and try and work out like some of the unanswered questions that are in there. There's many different, each person is going to look at a vision quest slightly differently because of like their background, and it's a very like personal experience, okay? There is some go-to steps that I'll provide later in this video that will certainly help you, but it's going to be from one man to another man, it's going to be very, very different. But just to give you some ideas on what some things that might come up is you might actually start to think about like some inner traumas that you might need to release. You might need to go into like some deep questions on what the future holds. You might need to try and like work out what sort of man you are. You might need to try and work out what your contribution is going to be. So, you know, the idea behind a vision quest is to go into it very intensely. So how do we do this? Okay, the traditional way, if we have a look at like what the American Indians used to do, the chief would actually choose, you know, mainly the young men, you know, somewhere between 11 and 15. And when he thinks that they're right, he would actually put them out into a cave or, you know, some sacred area, and it said, you're going to be out here for 4 days. And typically he would fast for 4 days, and hopefully during that time he would be able to get bored and ask himself a lot of questions and work out what type of person he's going to be. Maybe have a vision from a higher power. You know, some people might call this God. I'm not really religious, but you know, something outside of himself would fuel his mind and give some genuine interest and some genuine intrigue, and he would just watch the patterns of thought and see what genuinely excites him. And from there you'd be able to see like, okay, this is the type of person that I want to be, and when he comes back to the tribe, he's sort of like a changed man. That's the traditional way of going about it. My way that's in my program is a little bit more hardcore, but we'll get to that later in this video. So the more new age way of doing it, okay, as a lot of other influences in this space we talk about, is, you know, you'd have a guide, or you would, like, if you think that you could go out by yourself, or maybe you might go out with another group of men, you go somewhere in nature, somewhere like this, but more remote, because I'm just sort of in the park, but you would go to a place that's more remote, where there's not a lot of outside stimulus, okay? So there's no other people, you know, you certainly don't take your phone, and you might go camp for 4 days. You might fast, you might not fast, but the idea again is to go in so that it's very intentful, okay? You go in there with something that you're trying to overcome, something that you're trying to work out, and try to maybe spend some time thinking about that, sort of like an active meditation. and just sort of connect with nature and connect with like the understanding that, you know, you're going to die one day, you know. So it's everybody's going to look at this from a slightly different perspective. I'm just trying to open up some ideas for you, so that if you decide, and I encourage you to go on a vision quest of your own, you're going to get something out of it. So you would go out, you'd ask some deeper questions, and you might fast, and then through that experience you come back to the normal world a changed man with a different perspective on life. One of the reasons why this can actually be very challenging for men is because you spend a lot of time in preparation, okay? You got to sort out all your gear, you got to sort out food, you got to sort out your car, you got to sort out like whether or not you're going to bring somebody else with you. And you spend a lot of time while you're actually trying to, you know, set up your home base, your campsite. And because of all the time that's spent in actually like the time spent in actually setting up your area, you're in this position where you're not actually utilizing the time effectively. You're not actually utilizing the time as much, because you're kind of going from distraction to distraction as you set up camp, instead of actually utilizing more time to go on that inward journey. So I'm sure you've had this experience where you go and on a holiday, and after you go through to that holiday, you kind of need a holiday for the holiday, because you've spent so much time stressing in the preparation of actually going to it. So this sort of leads me to what's in my program, okay? What's in my program is called the Bathroom of Solitude, okay? That's how I've sort of dubbed it. And what it is essentially is I'll give you some tools and some thought processes and some deep questions to ask yourself, and maybe a little bit of a workbook, so that you can actually lock yourself in your own bathroom for 4 days. Okay, and you need about 4 days, maybe 5 days, to actually fully immerse yourself in this experience, to understand, to allow yourself to get bored and allow those questions to come up. Because within boredom, when you're actually in that state of like there's no outside stimulus, your mind starts to get to a point where it starts to either play games on you, or you might actually be able to bring up some inspiration. And if you listen to those thoughts and you start to fuel them, because you literally have nothing else to do, some amazing things can happen, okay? So essentially what's in my program is I'll help you to get to that stage where you're going to lock yourself in your own bathroom. There's going to be a camp mattress, a pillow, some freaking canned food, a camera, or if you want to do a video log style one like I do, or you could do something like you take a notepad and a huge amount of pens and you just do a lot of writing. The biggest point is that it needs to leave your mind. It needs to go onto paper, or it needs to go into a video. It needs to be something that is outside your mind, because when you actually voice things, it allows you to actually make those thoughts more linear in your head. Because the last thing you want to do is you go into this experience and you have all these thoughts come up, but you're unable to capture them, because then you don't have any chance to maybe reflect on it in maybe a couple of weeks or a month later, because you kind of just go back into your routine again, and all of a sudden now you're back to where you were before. There was a brief change, there was a moment, a little glimmer, and then it was gone. So what are some questions that you could ask yourself if you decide that you want to go on a vision quest? Some of the ones that really help me is, what sort of man am I? What sort of man am I? What sort of life do I want to live? Who would be the best people to enjoy that life with? What am I good at? What am I not good at? Where does my mind tend to go when I'm bored? What are the things that I know that if I put the work in, I might actually accomplish? Is there anything that's going on in the background of my mind that seems to be on loop, and I'm allowing it to go on loop, and it's kind of troubling me? Is there anything that I could do so that this isn't happening anymore? What are the things that I need to address in my life? Where are the areas in my life that are messed up? You know, they're kind of effed up. And then the next question is like, what are the things that I could do so that I can fix those things? So that when I get out of this room and I'm back into the, my day-to-day routines, what are some things that I could integrate back into my life so that those things aren't a problem anymore? What are the things that I want to change? What are the things that I'm grateful for, that I really enjoy doing at the moment? They kind of bring me pleasure. I may not necessarily get money from them, but there's maybe a little clue there that could actually get me into something that could potentially I could get money from. Because remember, if you're looking at my other videos, we talk about purpose. Purpose isn't just something that you might necessarily enjoy it, but it's those crossroads of those four things. You've got, what am I good at? What does the world need? What do I love? And what can I be paid for? Okay, so you've got to have those four things together. I might just go this way because of the sun. But those are some of the questions that you should be asking yourself if you're actually considering going and doing a vision quest. Okay, I really encourage you to go and give it a try. It doesn't cost you any money. It could potentially change your life and give you a sense of clarity, a sense of meaning, a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, or at the very least it's going to kickstart you on that journey. It might give you a level of resolve, and you'll go back to like your day-to-day life and you're like, you know what, I really need to make some changes. I'm hoping that it's going to be so like life-changing and altering as it was for me, that you go through, and it might be even stressful for 6 months to a year, where you inch by inch slowly cut out all of the BS that's in your life and replace it with things that are better habits, better foods, better systems, so that your life starts to go on an upward spiral. You're probably making pretty good money at the moment. You probably got a lot of other areas of your life handled, but for this particular one, when you're talking about purpose, it's just like, you're going through life, but there's just something that is not inspiring to you anymore. There's something that's not really moving you forward, and you can't seem to put your finger on it. So if that's the case for you, and you're having a bit of a hard time when it comes to this, and you need some more guidance, you need somebody to be able to give you a few more tools and put you through maybe a bit more of a program so that you can fast track this, because you're sick and tired of actually like spending so much time in this thought processes. Or maybe you've already tried something else that's similar to what I'm talking about and it didn't really work for you. Then maybe you want to reach out to me. Reach out to me on Instagram. You and I can get on a one-on-one strategy session. We can see if we're a good fit. I'm a very logical and pragmatic person, as if you've already made it this far in the video. I talk about things from a very future perspective, very pragmatic way of thinking, and I want to be able to transfer some of these ideas and thought processes to you. So if that's the case, so reach out to me on Instagram. If you're not at a stage but you like my content, then hit that like button and subscribe. Helps out the channel a great deal. And I hope to talk to you soon.